Mets therapy recap. Apologies, this is coming a little late. The Knicks played tonight too, so I, of course, had to listen to my good friend John Macri break down a game that didn't matter for an hour, which I wouldn't trade it for the world. But it did mean that I had a good hour to think about a pretty great baseball game that the Mets just lost. Obviously would have been much better if they won, but Mets lose to the Phillies 7-6. A back and forth affair. Mets went up 3-0, then the Phillies tied it at 3, then the Mets went up 4-3. Phillies went up 6-4. The Mets tied it again in the ninth inning at 6, and then Nick Castellanos with a game-winning hit in the bottom of the ninth to win it 7-6. It is 1-1 going back to Queens. We are guaranteed 2 games at Citi Field this week on Tuesday and Wednesday at 5 p.m. Hopefully nobody bitches about shadows. Okay, aspects of this. So, I mean, look, my honest number one takeaway is that this is going to be a long series. This was always going to be a long series, and like Severino not holding on to a 3-0 lead stings, but when the guys that tie it are Bryce Harper and Nick Castellanos, you understand. You know, when you lost last week to the Brewers and it was Jackson Chourio, like, that's a very good baseball player. You understand. Honestly, the game that was going to annoy me was going to be game 3, because like, that's a 199 hitter Jake Bauers and a guy Sal Frelick who had hit 2 home runs and hadn't hit like a line drive since May. But there's no shame in losing to this Phillies team. That's not even copium. I went into this series respecting that team. That's a 95 win ball club that, you know, has the 3rd best odds to win the World Series behind the Yankees and the Dodgers for a reason. That is a difficult ballpark to play in. It's why it makes the Mets game 1 win so triumphant. And it's why, at the end of the day, as we put things in context, if you told me that a team that had just played 8 games in 7 days, then got a day off, and then was going to Philly for 2 games before going home for their first time since the middle of September, if you told me they were going home tied 1-1, I would have signed up for it. Understanding the context of how they got to 1-1 matters. How we feel, the reality is the Mets now play best 2 out of 3. This series is now best 2 out of 3, and now the Mets have home field advantage. So, I say all of that to get into some details about the game. The positives, the gigantic positives, start with Mark Vientos. The two-run home runs, a 3-hit day, was on base 4 times. This kid was not on the opening day roster, was not the 3rd baseman on the team, and his story continues to be awesome. And look, we're not eulogizing the season or even looking a bit to the future, but it's nice that one of the pieces that will be here for a while is having himself a postseason. So the game-tying hit last night to a game-tying hit tonight, now that I realize it, and it's a home run in dramatic fashion off one of the Phillies' best relievers. Just a big night for him, Pete Alonso. It's funny, I'm now part of the Mets Twitter community, and I just wanted to, like, it's very big. It's like 15,000 people. I just wanted to see my people, and I wanted to, you know, obviously I'm promoting the show, promoting Mets therapy, but like I dabble in it every now and then, and someone had the nerve to be like, are we okay to like be critical of Pete Alonso now, because he's had like a rough first 2 games where, like, between the shadows and Zach Wheeler being awesome, like he was 0 for his first 6, I believe, with 5 strikeouts, and then he hits the home run, and it's like, no, we're done being critical of Pete Alonso. He guy hit one of the biggest home runs in franchise history last week. We're not getting critical of him 2 days later. This is why so many of you have commitment issues. The first sign of trouble, you're ready to jump ship. He hit a big home run. Brandon Nimmo, with the emotional last couple days he's had, he hits a big home run. You know, the lineup as a whole, it's funny, you want to talk about context, like Lindor has 4 hits in the playoffs, and they've all been huge. You know, Lindor has 4 hits in the playoffs, so they've all been huge, because the 2 hits he had against the Brewers, and then the walk in the ninth inning. And that's the other thing. He has 6 walks, so he's been a good table setter. but the 2 hits he had against the Brewers were their only hits. Then he gets a hit today in front of Vientos' first home run, and then he gets a hit in the 9th inning ahead of Vientos' second home run. So, good job by him. And your core, your top 4 guys, performed. Then we get to the almost negative, but half positive. Severino for 5 1/3 was utterly dominant today. I was wondering if we were about to see 7 scoreless and you ripped the heart out of the Phillies. And it's a good transition into the negative because the Bryce Harper at bat, up 3-0. They have the mound visit after he gives up the hit to Trey Turner, and he just flat out didn't execute in back-to-back batters. So you got to throw Harper nothing in the middle of not even the middle of the play. Just don't throw him a strike. If he goes chasing, you got him. If he doesn't go chasing, you take your chances with Castellanos. And if Castellanos hits a 3-run homer, you didn't execute, fine. You can't throw Bryce Harper a fastball right down the middle. That's just, it got them back in the series, let alone back in the game. And then Castellanos, again, one of the highest chase rates in all of baseball. The guy shouldn't see strikes. And I could argue the reason the Mets lost this game is you started throwing Nick Castellanos strikes. And that's what undid Sevy, who gave us a quality start, 6 innings, 3 runs against that lineup. On paper, looks fine. But the context, you get a couple more outs, you're looking at a 6-inning, 7-inning start, and maybe you're up 2-0 in the series. And then, look, Tyler McGill in an impossible situation against the heart of that order. Him not getting through the 9th inning is tough, but you're almost at that point running out of pitchers. This is what happens when you get home field. You're able to set up your pitching so that way your ace goes game 1. And the Mets, Reed Garrett's been great. He was not available today because he threw 2 innings yesterday. The last person you got to talk about that just has to be better, just flatly has to be better, is your $102 million closer. And while he gets the strikeout of Schwarber to end the 7th, I was very okay. Honestly, I first guessed it. I texted my group chat, my Mets friend group chat, Budo for the first 4 batters, Budo for the bottom of the order, and then if it gets to Schwarber, you bring Diaz in. And lo and behold, that is exactly what happened. And Budo, you got to execute better. I actually thought Budo had a good bounce back performance. The hit by pitch is what's going to haunt him. But Budo, after the 2-home run game, the 2-home run outing that he gave up on on Thursday, it's been a long week of baseball. After that Game 3 performance against the Brewers, him bouncing back, and the big blunder is a hit by pitch because Cody Clemens had an infield single that's a ground ball with different positioning. So I wasn't too upset. I actually thought him getting through the next 2 batters after the hit by pitch is the victory. But then I was okay with Diaz coming in for the top of the order, and the guy didn't execute. Got Trey Turner the way he needed to. The pitch around with Bryce Harper, I probably would have attacked him, but that's the game plan, fine. You then have to get Castellanos out. You have to get Bryson Stott out. And he didn't. And it's why they went from up 4-3 to losing going into the 9th inning. That's a good baseball team over there. There's no shame in losing to the Phillies. There's frustration that you could have been in the very driver's seat and with the chance to nail a death blow on Tuesday. But instead, you're going to have to fight this series out. And I think you always were going to have to if you were going to go to the NLCS. Thankfully, we have a team that fights. We have a Mets team that absolutely knows how to fight. So, obviously, we have more baseball to watch, at least 2 more games this season. And I'm excited to watch them because this team is a team worth being excited to watch. Okay, that's the longest Mets therapy recap that I've done for a game that probably deserved it. Thank you for tuning in. See you Tuesday. Let's go Mets.